welcome back yet again, ladies and gentlemen, to some more PGCQ action. I am once again your host for the evening, Ravish Ravis, most ravish man on the internet, joined here by my side by these lovely gentlemen and their very handsome faces, of course. The man who runs the EU, Veteran, by my side. Veteran, how are you?
What's up? I'm doing good. Glad to be back in NA for some more NA action.
Oh, absolutely fantastic. I'm glad you're here with us. And of course, one of my favorite top laners out here in amateur history, tooling collegiate superstar Aizo. How are we feeling, baby?
I'm doing great. I'm excited to watch these games. I got a lot of friends on all the teams today.
Well, I'm very happy. Well, shout out to you for having friends. Big flex to everybody else out there watching. It must be nice. Vetter, how many friends do you have?
On the teams playing today, absolutely none. But I'd like to, I'm open to it. I'm open to it. I'm searching. Playing the field a bit.
You know what? If anybody out there playing the game, watch your friends better. Go ahead, hit us DMs.
Ravishing. The only friend I need is you, man. The only friend I need is you.
Oh. Thank you. With that being said, we're going to go talk about that later, as we do have our main game of the day, just to get things a little bit started and warm it up, right? Because to introduce our series, what I want to do is play a little game of word association, or association French, if you don't necessarily speak it. What I'm going to do is I'm going to start a word about a team, and you guys will continue with one word after that. Sound cool? Sound easy? I bet it is. All right. So I'm going to start off with EGP.
Is.
All right.
Very.
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 Guys, got any of the words in the very?
That's not a word, Ravishing. That was a sentence.
This is my bad. We're messing it up. Yeah. We're just gonna keep going on this whole train. You know what? Okay, I'm gonna try to start it off with very.
Very.
Incredibly.
Amazingly.
Really?
Talented.
Oh.
And
plays
aggressively.
every day. All right, cool.
That's 2 words. One word.
Right there. That's perfect. It's easy. It's clean. That's what we actually love to hear. Cool. Now, besides that, so why don't we go ahead and jump into our actual games of the day now, shall we? So, let's start things off real easy, real simple, real smooth. As you know, we do, of course, have our 2 matches today that are going on between EGP and DK Crew. And alongside that, we have an AGT versus CLG on the other stream. We, of course, do have TBA versus Tempest Gaming. All of these teams are vying for some of the top spots in North American PGCQ. So I hope you guys are ready, and I'm feeling good. Veteran, how about you?
I mean, I'm glad to see TBA's logo, even though I won't be able to see them play today. I'm excited for the Geo Kingdom later on. But EGP is always one of these often very hyped teams. You don't quite know what you're going to get. The last games they had were very, very exciting. Definitely, when I was doing research for this, I actually turned off the VOD for the first game halfway through and skipped to the second. I was like, where's the third? Where's the third game, guys? They brought it to game 3. Seeing that was a bit of a shock. Maybe we'll see something like that today. Like, everyone loves EGP. Everyone loves EG's program. So let's see what they have, and let's see what their opponents can bring to the table.
A fair possibility too. Aizo, do you have some comforting words for their opponents today?
Well, EGP versus DK Crew, they aren't seen as the favorites coming in today, but they are the fan favorites, which is probably more important, to be honest. I do think that they have some good ways to win, but they definitely aren't seen as the underdogs today.
No, they are not, right? Because, as you mentioned, they got a lot of fans out there. Hashtag with the banana slamulation, of course. So, of course, a lot of people watching them, and their branding has been just so fun. I can imagine why teams are rallying around them, of course. But Veteran, you also did make a fair point about mentioning how the EGP program, along with these players themselves, have truly stuck fears into the hearts of many. And I know I mean one of them, as well. As you watch them through all of PGCQ, they're currently vying for the top 6 spot, but only DK Crew stands in their way. Before we get into the nitty gritty of the matchup, let's take an overall look of how we got here as well by taking a look at our group stage and the brackets that we're currently there. As today is the final day of such and Group A and B that we've gone through. Of course, Tempest Game and Team Pending right there at the bottom for the final game, veteran.
Yeah, I mean, the TBA AOE Esports series is one of my favorite ones so far, actually. It's a shame that Jace Kitten's never got their time to shine, but especially on the other side, 100 Thieves next versus No Warg over there and Large. I mean, actually, oh my lord, there are so many banger games on my screen right now. It's been a really, really good journey to this particular point. I am rooting for the TBA guys to make it through. But yeah, ultimately we'll see who is actually able to take on 100 Thieves, because they look as dominant as they did last time. And yeah, they've steamrolled through their competition.
Understandable. I personally am also a smiley face enjoyer myself, and I do a little bit of bias there.
Have to be.
Understandably, you have to be, right? It's the widest smile on your face. Is there anybody who loves smiling veteran? I know it's you. But on the other end, to go ahead and take a look at our next bracket here, Izo. These games have been a surprise to many. Were there any games here that stuck out to you?
I think a few people were probably surprised about the EGP versus Maryville crazy backdoor play that kind of might have tilted EGP a little bit. But other than that, I think Cincinnati Fear versus Ginger Turmeric could have gone either way. Cincinnati Fear did very well versus them, but today's matchups are kind of the most important ones for in terms of seeding into the actual main event. EGP and Ginger Turmeric are both fighting for top 6, whereas DK Crew and CLG Faith are both kind of ride or die fighting for their final spots in top 10.
Well, and you raise a fantastic point there and a great segue to talk a little bit about what could potentially happen, like you mentioned, like within our seeding as well. If we take a look at take a look at our playoff bracket too, these are the last 3 games, right? With the EGP, DK Crew game, they'll go on to face AOE Esports going forward in the next week. And of course, with the AGT and CLG game, they'll have the luck of facing up against Maryville too, who I'm sure are coming off of a fantastic high off the game we just mentioned against EGP. So every single one of these games counts for the absolute most right now. For EGP, like we already mentioned, a 6th place spot is in the candle. And on the other end, for the opponents of DK Crew, they just gotta survive here, man. This game is it. If they don't get this, then they don't got it. So let's try to see what kind of chance do they have.
I mean, there's a world where they could, but it comes down to individual play, right? And then in the mid lane there, I think everybody would be quite rightfully pointing towards Doxa as being superior, but if it's possible for DK Crew to find advantages in that mid section, suddenly EGP's game plan collapses. But the thing is, they normally find these kinds of advantages individually in the lanes. They don't necessarily group with support or with jungle to get those advantages. Support jungle will play off of said advantages, but they very much leave it to their laners to get these. So it's a lot on the individual play of DK Crew, or a new kind of teamwork that we just haven't seen from them so far. So if these upsets happen, it's going to happen in the 1v1, it's going to happen in the 2v2. Something like this is how DK Crew are going to make it. But then, they have to get around the team fighting phase. And EGP are incredibly strong team fighters. I favor them in all of those scenarios.
100%, because it makes perfect sense too. Because Izo, let me also get a little bit about your personal experience of facing up against either one of these teams. Because you, as you mentioned, you have a lot of friends on these squads as well too. But you've also played against many of them throughout your years too.
Yeah, Faisal for EGP, I've actually known for quite a while. I think he's one of the strongest top laners in Proving Grounds, and one of my personal favorites. But I think Veteran's take is pretty much correct. If DK Crew just decides to go for a standard play style, scale into teamfight versus EGP, I don't think it'll work out for them. I think they need something a little spicier to throw EGP off their game plan, because I think they're just in that situation where it's like a 55-45, and you don't want to play versus a weighted coin if you're going to be doing that standard play.
No. Yeah.
No, you do not.
Yeah, no, I agree on that. I'd also say maybe one advantage we can say about DK Crew is that they aren't too bothered if their top side is played heavily against. We're thinking about like tank tops for them, whereas when it comes to EG, even if they're playing with like the Gangplank top as they did versus Maryville, top lane seems to be the only place that they really play through as a team. So you have those advantages in mid for Savage and bot for Evan IRL to potentially get their 1v1 2v2s. But if you're never going to even get that kind of 1v1 opportunity top, I don't really think they care about that. Hybrids has been quite impactful in team fights for them, and he seems very, very happy to just absorb pressure. So maybe that's one way where DK Crew can match up well towards EGP and nailed it. And but that isn't necessarily an advantage they can accelerate through. Right? It just means that maybe they won't get so heavily beaten up in those early phases, and they aren't uniquely vulnerable to what EGP throw out.
Nah, because as we've seen EGP kind of develop so far throughout the years, right? They've, well, even just throughout this year in general, we've managed to see how they can have superstar performances through many of the layers. To remember the beginning, we're talking a lot about Mia as well, and now just how the narrative has shifted. They're talking about the rest of their team, you know, heroes like Yuki, you know, even like Faisal, like you also already mentioned Iso too, who is, as you so aptly dubbed, the king of top lane currently. Now, being
that's
a top laner yourself, is he above you, fam? Really? Is that how it's going to be?
Well, I've played many scrims versus Faisal where he takes what's supposed to be a losing matchup versus me, takes a very funny rune and just wins it anyways. So I think he's really, really talented. But I do agree with Veteran that Hybrids is sort of a rock in top lane. He's usually not gonna be like inting the game away, taking bad fights if he's in a losing matchup. He will play very comfortable in a matchup, even if he's being played for EGP to try and abuse his side. I do think he is very good at sustaining the pressure.
And you know what? Maybe Faisal turns out not to be that good. Maybe Iso's just very, very bad.
Maybe I'm full of it.
You raise a fair point because, you know, Isaac, you are kind of nuts. So maybe Faisal's just a little bit more up there. But of course, when you're facing up against DK Crew, right, it's realistically a lot can happen. Now, so because we talked a lot about EGP already, let's try to see what DK Crew can possibly bring to the table, Veteran. Because like you said, you know, individually, these players are amazing.
Yeah. I mean, Savage definitely on this Talia in the last series was actually doing a lot. Not just with individually one-on-one, but once he gets that, his leans around the map were actually very, very inspiring for them. So that's something that they could get, but he'd have to do it against Doxa. And Doxa has been phenomenal at very much the same thing. When they play topside, it's not just Yukino, it's also Doxa inevitably winning his matchup in mid lane and moving topside on something like Zoe, and, you know, winning topside very heavily as a free man with that. But if Savage can disrupt that, that could be an avenue that Short Race can use to maybe invade and disrupt Yukino, this kind of stuff. So that the mid lane matchups where I'm looking, and if that can be disrupted by Savage, then that's brilliant. And if Short Race decides that maybe he wants not to wait for his laners to do all of that setup and, you know, go in and try to engage in a 2v2, he may find himself in a 2v1 in that midsection a lot. So that could be another route that they could do. So that's where I'm looking, that midsection. That midsection falls, as we saw with the second game against Maryville. It's not like they really know what they're doing. Faisal died quite early against Maryville. They normally play heavy around top. At that point, they didn't, like, their game plan was entirely off kilter. They didn't really play around anything. So these early disruptions that could come from individual advantages, that's how they win.
Yeah, because especially with Maryville game 2, they really took advantage of being sure to disrupt them wherever and however they could. Now, although it was unlucky that they died in like a 2v2 when they were inside of their base and unfortunately gave up the game, but past that, now hopefully EGP's managed to shake that up. The one key thing there as well is for DK against EGP. These teams have faced up before as well. Now, this was quite a while ago when the open qualifiers, and it did not go well for DK. That being another statement, of course, and every single champion that DK have picked, then they decided not to recently bring out again either. So I'm thinking that, you know, they're probably like a little bit more wise to what EGP can bring out. But I also know that throughout the evolution of time, you know, especially with teams you faced before, right, you're probably a lot more prepared going into the second matchup as well. And I think DK Crew right now, may stand a real chance. But that's just my heart telling me. Where do you stand on this?
I think if DK Crew manages to find Talia, as you said, Heike Savage played it recently, but it's also one of Shorter Race's signature picks. If they go for, you know, very, very comfortable playmakers like Talia, they could have a good chance. I think it will mostly come down to draft in these games. If DK Crew gets a really good draft, then they will obviously stomp, but you know, EGP are not clueless. They know what DK Crew is probably planning to do. I'm sure they've scrimmed them before. We will just sort of have to see if there's any spice.
So what I'm hearing is that scrims do tell the tales of all results, Iso. Is that correct? Yeah.
Scrims are OP. You know the answer before it happens.
You got your face painted in your head as soon as you heard that. Are scrims not OP, veteran? Is this the consensus? You tell me this?
I mean, judging by scrims, I'm like a 2-time world champion by now. I scrims lie all of the time, especially with the scouting information. Every single split we begin with like heavy early game compositions because scrims have like 40 kills by 20 minutes, and then by the time we get to playoffs, it's all the same scaling stuff again. So I hope they haven't put all of their investment into scrim scouting. I think they have more than enough to see the weaknesses of EGP, especially as exposed by Maryville. Not just in the macro in game 1, but definitely in game 2. You saw how you can throw EGP off kilter. Yeah, I do think they have the tools to do it. They do have the tools there. Whether they can actually do it, I guess we'll see if I think that in the predictions. But
I mean, it's a possibility. But like you said, everybody in caveman time had the tools, but only one person made fire. So we'll see how they can use those tools. But I do want to get down to, but as you already mentioned, draft is going to be highly important. And some of the champions already that we're discussing, like the Talia, the Olaf even, or the Udyr, are going to be very high priority for at least one of these sides, and maybe even both. You're trying to deny them across the board, because if any side managed to get that complete comfort, then it sounds like we might not be here for too long, but I digress. So let's try to break down what our thoughts are for today, gentlemen. I wanted to try, before we get your predictions, a quick look at the caster ones. And wow, Destrux is a high believer, and understandably so. He did do the rap about them. So I don't blame him. And even, as you both mentioned, the community on Twitter as well, to rallying behind the DK Crew. But otherwise, other results I'm not super surprised to see. And of course, naturally veteran it is smiles all around below. But with the cast predictions out of the way, more often than not, I'm usually wrong, and I know we're usually right. It is time for our predictions. Iso, I'll let you go first. Indulge me. What do you got?
So much like Grapes, even though I love DK Crew, I am predicting that EGP will win today.
In a 2-1 fashion.
I'm putting a little faith in the boys of DK Crew, but I do think that it is EGP favored.
Wow. Okay. I mean, understandable.
Okay.
That's okay. It's you're showing that too, but I'm glad I respect the 2-1 veteran. What do you got for me?
I think that if DK Crew win one game, they'll win the whole series. I don't think EGP's mental can handle that after the Maryville loss. So as a result, I think that EGP will take it 2-0.
Okay. So we're coming in with shattered mentals today, according to veteran. Absolutely just the most fragile beings that we currently have. But you know what? It's fine. I get it. You know, after a loss like that, it's tough. But I feel like these teams are strong. They're Hyper, you let me build up to it. I was gonna say a whole bunch of things, man. I had a whole thing about how, you know, DK Crew, right? They're phenomenal players on their end. Shorter is really competitor as well. I would take advantage of the jungle, all that he does for his team. But then suddenly it's going to calm down to 1v1. And of course, League of Legends is a team game and a team environment. Evil geniuses have shown that they truly are all in this together. And then I would have said 2-0.
No, he's done it now. There you go. There you go. Boom.
Wow, what a surprise. Everybody watching. Woo, yay, whoop-de-doo. Thanks. But that works out. I'm playing around, but you have my predictions there. You already know the casters' predictions as well, and hopefully you guys have submitted yours. Now, with that being said, we have our casters on deck for the first series of the day. That being my favorites, Jolly and Rebel Fox. Yo, Jocks, take it away.
Did he just say we were his favorites? Oh my god, I'm freaking out right now, Rebel.
He also called us jocks is the other portion. Also earlier, Veteran told me to shut up, so I want to thank Veteran because that's like the biggest boost to my ego I've ever had is him telling me anything at all. So that's pretty nice. Our desk is a bunch of celebrities, and it's nice that they're acknowledging our existence.
I know, right? Yeah, they'll mention our names occasionally. Usually we just get the toss, but my goodness, I mean, his favorites. That is really something to wear as a badge of honor in the future. But I am incredibly excited about today's series. I don't know about you. I think we got some bangers coming up, and I like how the desk introed this series. They're like DK Crew. They're not underdogs at all, but 2-0s across the board, aside from, the 2-1 that we have up there at the end from ISO. So we'll have to see how this one plays out. There's a lot on the line, right? We've been talking about that. The desk talked about that a little bit, not just with this series, but actually the upcoming series as well, in terms of like snagging that 6th place or even potentially having the opportunity to even be in the top 10 here.
Yeah, it's really awesome because we have both of the teams that are currently at 6th and 7th competing for those top 6 spots. Of course, in Proving Grounds, you want to be top 6. You don't have to play against an academy team walking directly into the Proving Grounds. You get a second life, basically, instead of getting kicked out if you lose one series. And on the other half of things, of course, you have the 2 teams that are sitting in 10th and 11th place at the moment. So you've got teams that are right on the verge of qualifying for PG, teams right on the verge of qualifying for that 6th spot so you can make it into PG proper, all of these types of things. And so everybody's motivated on a day like today. Like, nobody's going to be walking in here without a predetermined game plan. Everybody's going to be playing at their absolute hardest to make sure that they have 100% opportunity to give themselves to qualify where they need to get.
Exactly, that's for sure. And going along those lines, and I want to ask you, as you are my answer board basically. If I need to add time to anything, I'm just like, excellent. I got to ask Rebel Fox questions now because you are an encyclopedia when it comes to a lot of these collegiate players and these teams. So where are you watching today for both EGP and of course DK Crew there respectively?
Yeah, so for EGP, I think they've really shifted heavily into this top side, especially and last time they played DK Crew, not to minimalize things, they very heavily played through top side. They had Olaf and Udyr 2 games in a row, which I think is an absolute mistake if that DK Crew definitely should fix inside of this series. If they haven't, then they have not learned anything, and maybe they don't deserve to lose the series. Daxa is always somebody that's on my mind, though. He played ridiculously well in a couple of series, played really well against Maryville, even in the game that they lost. Or both the games they lost. He played really well in game 1, at least the one that they almost won. So my eyes are always on Doxa, but this top side specifically for the side of EGP. And then CLG, I think there's a lot of opportunity for Draco. He showed up for us last week and showed up really heavily. The last time these two played, it was a different top laner he was playing against, but now it's existed, so there's some option potentially to try to take carry versus carry. Last time we saw him on Sejuani twice against this team, or my apologies, not twice against that team. For this series, of course, Hybrid stepping in up against Faisal's a difficult role when you're playing up against the Olaf, and I expect them to protect that this game.
Yeah, for sure. And I think, where a lot of DK Crew is kind of focusing on is for Shorter Ace to sort of pick up all of the pieces, right? So that's sort of how DK Crew feels as a team. It's a lot less EGP where they're team fight focused, they're focused on objectives. It feels like they're all trying to, play on the same page. With DK Crew, they're like, hey, Shorter Ace, I've got something. They just send out pings to Shorter Ace basically to come clean up the mess. And then once you get Shorter Ace ahead, it's very difficult to stop this player, but we're gonna have to see if things play out the same way that the desk is anticipating. Everybody going with EGP, and I do believe I saw that you and I are both. I think there's only 2 members maybe out there that are actually feeling DK Crew might be able to get ahead on this one. Even Grapes, who is always on their side, does not necessarily feel the wind behind them today, but we'll have to see how things play out. Again, Callista's going to be the first ban here from EGP, and on the other side, they're going to take away that Seraphine. So focusing more on the bottom side of the lane for both of these teams so far.
To me, I know we have talked a little bit about what Savage had been able to do. Our desk had mentioned the Talia play, which I think is really important. And I think there's 2 ways that DK Crew could try to play out this game. I think Hybrids is basically on his own. I don't think ganking that lane is going to accomplish all that much for Shorter Ace. And if I recall, they tried it in their last series and it didn't work out great.
So I want to see them play through mid lane to get Savage unlocked so that they can start attacking with Savage in their side lanes the way they worked up against Supernova just last week, or play in a bottom lane. Believe it or not, Evan RL actually has one of the highest KDAs because he never dies in these games. It's funny enough because the other person in front of him currently in the tournament is Mia. So if you want to change that stat line and everyone wants to take that away, I think bottom lane is the place to attack. It seems to be the weak side, or at least the weaker side for the side of EGP, and it's the place I would like to see them play to, because Evan, I think, is definitely capable of carrying this team in the right circumstances when it comes to team fighting if they don't have that prowess that we know EGP definitely does have.
Yeah, and Shorter Ace having the early roam that he does, certainly capable of starting to boost up that bottom lane in favor of DK Crew, and you're actually right, that is definitely a good area that they can look at to really find some success, specifically because when we're talking about EGP, most of everyone's eyes are towards that top side there. Yukino, of course, Faisal, Doxa even in the mid lane, so I really like that idea. And then like you said, Savage, get Savage the ability to roam early on too, and you were talking about Udyr that came through last time, that banned away along with the Zeri, so the first round of bans is over. On the other side, EGP taking away that Poppy from hybrids.
Yeah, there's no defense now for playing like the Seraphine in either for Doxa or for Mia or even for Donbray necessarily on the bottom side of the map. And they learned from last time, Yukino is a lot the kind of controlling power that EGP has for their lanes, and they're going to prevent that from coming through. Now, they have given up Senna. This was a possibility to bleed through, and DK Crew would have loved to have grabbed that themselves. My question is, what do they have in response to the Senna, potentially the TK as well? And also, Olaf is available. Faisal could play the Olaf still, and it was something he went to twice in a row and had great games on that they were very, very unlikely to be able to bring him down. So I do worry, especially since they're blinding Narc here, whether or not Faisal favors that matchup, favors that champion here, because once again, he was destructive in the last time we saw these two teams play.
Yeah, and blinding that Gnar, it gives you one or two thoughts, I guess, coming out of DK Crew, right? Of being able to have a little bit of sustainability, because as Gnar, you do have that. You've got the range, of course, you have a little bit of survivability with the Mega Gnar, but it makes me wonder if DK Crew is actually going to focus towards the top side when you lock in the first pick, but it's going to be a Karthus on the opposite. EGP is coming in to have fun and play around and take down some kills pretty early.
Yeah, I think they get the Senna, and then they see the Aphelios, and they see the Gnar, and they're like, okay, we can always take something aggressive against the Gnar, and then the Aphelios probably can't smash us in the laning phase against anything we pick as the Senna, even if they throw Tom Kenshi, or they're not that worried about it. So they say, we can farm. Instead of being like a big facilitator, instead of having your hands in all the jars on the map here for Yukino, you can instead play a little bit more hands-off, rely on these lanes to do their own thing for a little bit of time, and allow this Karthus to scale up into an absolute menace. That is, of course, if they don't plan on flexing it to like Donbray or Mia and then putting the Senna in the opposite position, because we know they're capable of doing some goofy things on the bottom side of the map. I wouldn't be shocked to see something like that. The blind Silas was interesting too, because it is maybe preferential for Doxa. Maybe even Faisal wants it to try to take it into the Gnar. I don't think that's a ridiculous flex, but the Azir is super comfortable for Savage. So if he sees this and he says, I can play this into the Silas, if he's ready to carry with it, I think Savage can do some really nice things on this Azir.
Some solid opportunities. Also a nice ultimate there for Doxa to be able to pick up for himself too. And that's something, as soon as you see the Silas locking, the opposing team is saying, okay, how can we limit the ultimates that are coming through? And actually locking in the Gnar and the Aphelios to start things off, not bad, right? EGP already kind of limited in terms of what they can take, but then when you've got that Azir ulti, that gives you a big supplement to setting up fights or being able to escape from a really risky situation. Not only that, but you get the fun interactions where you get to see the Emperor's Divide into the Emperor's Divide occasionally and just kind of watch bodies fly.
Interesting. So they banned the TK on the side of EGP, so they're planning on something else with the Senna, which is of interest. And then they take away the Volibear, so there's no action from Short Race. Goes for the Xin Zhao. I don't think that's a bad opportunity. I think this pick has been rising a little bit as the patch has continued, especially as this tournament has continued with the same patch for a while, and it's gone better and better. And then, of course, DK Crew, they say, okay, no Gangplank, no Camille. We're not letting you pick anything that's going to be able to scale or do well into our Gnar on the top side of the map. That is, of course, once again, assuming that we're not getting Olaf, not getting anything else. As you can see, they have decided to go for some great stuff here. I believe that might be Yukino's talent. I think it's the Karthus going into the bottom lane.
I love it. And that is so EGP. Honestly, when I saw that lock-in for the Karthus, I was not expecting anything. On the bottom lane seems appropriate, right? Especially with the Senna. And that is what we're going to see. EGP has so much aggression right now. You've got Yukino's talent showing up here. You got Faisal now that's able to go into that first blind pick Gnar here as the Ornn. So there's so much opportunity for EGP to get some early game pressure on this one and try to roll things into a very early team fight stage as well.
Goodness gracious, there's so much to talk about when it comes to EGP's composition and its actions against the side of DK Crew. All I know is that I feel like Short Race is not going to have a good time here. You're playing against the Talon, who's going to have a lot of damage from short range, but you're also playing into two skirmishing solo lanes. You got Olaf and you have Silas, who want to take fights as often as they can, especially you hit the level 6 mark when you have access to both the Zir ultimate and Gnar ultimate on demand for Doxa. Not an ideal situation. To me, DK Crew has to do well playing around Evan. I feel like Evan is their best bet. They've got a lot of lower range type champions, and so Evan can do a lot of the damage. Same with Savage in the time being. But Clyde also has to be active. We know he's a good roamer out of the bottom lane, but definitely has to be on his game here to make sure Shorter Ace doesn't just get bullied out of this jungle.
It's going to be really hard to do, though, because that means that you're abandoning Evan RL down here with Mia and Dawnbray on a Senna and a Karthus. There's so much range, there's so much damage that's coming through from both of these players down the bottom side that you gotta be careful as a roaming Karma with Clyde. But we will see exactly how things play out as we head into game number 1. Evil Geniuses Prodigies on the blue side, DK Crew on the red side. And it is a best of 3 going into today. So, lots of opportunity, I would like to say here, Rebel.
Plenty of it to show on both sides here. DK Crew gets a chance to show what they learned from their last series. Last time we covered that as well, and we were like, or at least I think me and Graves covered it, and we were not super happy with the drafts that had come through from DK because they were letting this hyper aggression on top side. We were like, how are they supposed to kill people? This hasn't changed that much. DK Crew hasn't done a ton to really make me convinced that they actually came in here with a much more significantly improved game plan than last time. Once again, it feels like they're relying on Evan, maybe Savage a lot more, to be their late game carrying. But again, we have this problem of you want to play into Evan or into Savage at minimum so you can get some kind of damage through for this team. But on the other hand, if you don't leave, then Shorter Ace might suffer. And then your map starts to break apart because Shorter Ace can't take advantage of the lanes the way that our desk had talked about.
Yep, and that is exactly the pressure that EGP is going with. And you could tell during the draft how comfortable, how quickly they were making these selections, and how early on they were able to say, okay, we're going to force out some of these blind picks from DK Crew. We're not even necessarily going to give some obvious counter picks on the other side. We're just going to make a crazy composition. So they have no idea what they're picking against or into, aside from the fact that, you're giving up some good ultimates to Doxa. You've got some good global ability as well from Mia. Dawnbray has the survivability on top of it. So that's where it's scary for me, and that's where I think DK Crew should be scared. Is honestly just the amount of raw power that is accessible to EGP right off the bat.
Jeez. I also like the idea potentially, we had talked a little bit about how Yukino previously had been playing more as a facilitator, more as somebody who helps control the map for EGP before they can break into their superior team fighting. It's a very different look. It's a very rare circumstance that I get to bust this out, but when I cover VCS a lot, and there's a jungler there named Killer Queen who still plays this champion to this day, and when he plays it and does well, he does it by being excruciatingly active as fast as possible. Like these lanes, you're not expecting them to be controlled by Yukino, you're expecting them to be dominated by Yukino so that this talent can really start to go crazy, start putting in damage. And again, one solid gank, well fitted in a couple of places. Think about it. Mini Gnar, super squishy. Azir in the right circumstance, very squishy. Evan RL on the bottom side, very solid targets for this talent to just absolutely eviscerate, especially with ganks that you got Olaf for perma slows, you got CC from Doxa, you got tons of slows and soft CC coming out of Mia and Dawnbray on the bottom side. Plenty of places. The cup runneth over for Yukino in this game to start making action happen.
And it can be soon too, but that's where DK Crew kind of has an opportunity to look and say, okay, we do know with the Talon, he's gonna have to go back, right? He can't just immediately stay alive and sustain enough health here to be able to immediately gank a lane. So you can at least somewhat time things and saying, all right, Yukino must be around this area or must be this far along with his clears. What can we take advantage of in that time? And it looks like it's going to be Shorter Ace who makes the first move here onto the lower scuttle, but that means Yukino should be able to snag that top one right away.
I do wonder if Shorter Ace actually skipped the Wolf Camp, just anticipating the potential of a contest in the river from Yukino, being like, okay, if he passes down to the bottom side, then we'll catch him here, and maybe feels like he's more powerful in the Xin Zhao. Maybe that's the case. Maybe just trying to make sure that the pathing is tracked here, but not seeing Yukino means that it didn't matter. Goes back to get the Wolves right now. And Yukino, of course, gets the first back because you don't have to stay for that additional camp. You're just here waiting for the rest of things to go through. So now, I mean, it's going to be first back Yukino. You're going to get a pickaxe to start things off. And Shorter Ace is still on the map, actually walking into the opposing jungle when this push should actually be turning back towards the side of, potentially, or at least the push right now is held by Mia and Dawnbray to potentially turn back and find Shorter Ace if he's not pretty careful here.
Yeah, I like the move there though, because he's at full health, right? Yeah, you can make that recall as soon as you decide to, but with the decision, yeah, there's that nice deep ward. With the decision to go for the Scuttle Crab early, I kind of like that because yeah, it did stall him out. Yukino has the advantage, has a faster clear now, is already back in his own jungle, but Shorter Ace recognized that. They saw where he was at towards the mid side of the lane, and so he ends up deciding, okay, what can I kind of do with this additional help that I have? And Vision, I think, is good enough.
Yeah, Vision at least will help track where Talon is going to be. Right now, Raptors are about to respawn, or very close to respawning at the moment, and they're going to catch him there basically red-handed at his own Raptor camp. And it's going to prevent both. It should at least give enough information for Savage and Hybrids to not fall victim to a Talon gank. So, like you had said, Shorter Ace was later to deploy onto the map, but does do something with it and being able to prevent a gank, hopefully elsewhere.
And the pings keep coming out. They keep saying Yukino is right here and now navigating his way upwards. But luckily for DK Crew, they have a lot of pressure in all of these lanes, so they're not incredibly terrified, right, of Yukino right now, at least in terms of where he's going to gank. They want to put this Vision down. All they need to do is lock eyes on him, keep him in the jungle, or navigate away from him, and you really don't have much to be afraid of. Of course, you are sacrificing quite a bit to do this, but look at that. And the ping's coming out once more. DK Crew says, okay, we know exactly where the jungler is. We can make a move on this first dragon.
Yukino, they are literally in your walls right now. Every single time I've looked up, it's just been somebody from DK Crew putting down another ward, continuing the tracking potential onto this Talon jungle, making sure there's no impact. And like you said, being able to have that information not only led to first dragon, led to push on bottom side, opened up some space for Evan RL and Clyde to have a little bit of breathing room. It's allowing some scaling. Hybrids should have an idea that Yukino could be up here. Maybe doesn't know exactly where Yukino is at, but especially with Mega Gnar being gone, this could still be a very potential dive. That's why Hybrids, you can see him just bouncing away as fast as he can. Oh, the hop!
He's got no chance. He was able to land that hop, and it might be enough for him to get out alive. Probably going to follow it up with the boomerang. No boomerang there. He's got the slow on it, and he does have that level advantage, so Yukino has to be somewhat careful here. Nice little vision peek by Savage.
I was horrified because he missed the hop. He actually didn't hit the top of Yukino's head and got like extra distance out of it. So he's just kind of standing next to the Talon there menacingly. Fortunately, Talon is not quite level 6, doesn't have the damage at this point in the game to make it matter. It's mid lane. Noxus pushed right into Shorter Ace.
Nice ultimate there, and of course it was that Crescent that ends up getting taken away by Doxa. He has to burn the ultimate right away, and now is he going to be able to navigate Short Ace? And Savage will say, honestly, not worth the chase.
Gorgeous from Doxa to be able to get out of a bad situation. He was pinched between Savage and Shorter Ace, grabs that Crescent Guard like you said, and not popping any attacks or anything like that, uses it to knock away Shorter Ace so that he can't just immediately E. He would have had to burn a W, maybe a flash to get on top of him, and instead, not going to be the case. A little worried there for a second because Faisal's got axes, and that's going to be Mini Gnar coming up real quick because Faisal might fancy Donnybrook here with Hybrids on top of it.
Yeah, Hybrids held on to the ultimate there too, had some opportunities but decided not to blow that one just yet. We can see he's taking chunks of damage in the meantime and actually had to burn his flash away towards the top so he can chase underneath his own tower. Is he gonna stay alive? Is he gonna go down here? No way. No way he survives. The question mark pings coming out from Faisal saying, what is this garbage? You can see the ghost was burned too to try to pick up that kill, but it was not enough to secure the first blood there for EGP.
Yeah, instead, just the flash. Faisal had burnt the ghost. That means the summoner cooldown discrepancy. It's going to take longer for the flash to come up than the ghost, but at least does not go down. It's Hybrids not giving anything over to Faisal this early on in the game. We were terrified. I preempted it. I said he wanted a Donnybrook. He was ready to fight right then and there against Hybrids. And fortunately, we didn't have to worry about them potentially going down. It ended up not being anything. Instead, we just get to see the rest of the map continue to farm up as much as they can, continue to scale up in the best ways possible. And now it is an EGP advantage. For the moment, at least, with a little bit of gold. I'm assuming there's a tower plate down somewhere. No, there's actually not a tower plate down anywhere. It's Clyde finds a great angle on Mia.
Mia has to flash away. Avoids that Mantra Q, though. Big chunk of damage, and the slow not going to come through. There is the exhaust onto Clyde, and a beautiful route to come through Evan RL. Not getting the first blood there, unfortunately. It's Clyde that picks it up with the Ignite. Ultimate response coming out of Mia won't be enough to pick up a kill.
Really unfortunate because it was perfect gun setup. It was red-white time to fight for Evan RL. Pops the Crescendo Moonlight Vigil, and so he just had a million chakram, and at that point, it's just a death sentence. Like, Mia's got nowhere to go and nothing to do. Tries to get something back with the Karthus ultimate, but again, being on your... For either bot laner, I think it's relatively difficult to manage if, like, you get a solid flank angle like Clyde just had, was elsewhere, kind of came back into bottom lane, just found a solid angle, and it's gonna buy bot lane pressure. You can see is Rift Herald traded for Yukino for a couple of plates on the bottom side. But you're okay with that because Evan RL was able to walk away with a lot more gold than what you had anticipated. Had the kill gone through too, that would have been humongous.
Would have been huge. Still just the one though. Coming out of DK Crew.
Oh,
maybe something here. Dawnbreak flashing away. Shorter Ace flashing forward onto this one. So many summoners burned there to the point that Mia's actually going to throw out the sad B. But it is one aside.
Okay. Maybe it was Dawnbreak just anticipating maybe they would have had a way to get on top or throw in damage. Clyde may have had a W or something like that on a Dawnbreak, just immediately flash to make sure that wasn't going to come through. Shorter Ace saw an angle to potentially re-engage onto Mia because the flash had just gone down on the Karthus, so if you do find like a flash when becomes lightning, then it becomes okay. It doesn't end up happening. Instead, they cancel the back because Yukino might actually play a little bit of Warrior Trickster here on the top lane, just being a menace. He's going to kill Evan too.
No way. Oh gosh, we saw the stall on the recall to come through. Yukino was there at full health, and they had full vision. Yukino just stopped there in the river bush. My cat is trying to take my mouse away from me. just sat there on the river bush and took away that vision ward. So an absolutely insane play. But let's take another look at that since we weren't actually able to get it on cam.
Yeah, it was Yukino in the back. It snuck through the jungle, and I think that was pretty much the end of it because Evan RL and Clyde tried to back almost a minute beforehand. That was when Dawnbreak was able to drop the ward, find a nice ward Q. That was when the flash got burnt on both sides, and then they had to escape under the tower, so the wave was far enough up that or was able to be pushed, so they got driven back underneath their own tower, and that is when the Talon came in, back from Clyde just a little earlier than Evan RL as well, so it prevented him from being there on the defense of his ADC. Just well-timed, I would say, from Yukino, and well-played from that entire bot lane situation, because again, it was easy to communicate and say, hey, stop their back so I can make way down there, we can try to find a kill of some guy.
And you can also tell this is where EGP is clearly looking to make some moves with Yukino because look at the vision that's been placed down here. Doesn't make a difference when it comes to the dragon being taken. DK Crew were able to solidify that one for themselves quite easily. They knew that nobody was able to take the fight, and Faisal in the meantime says, you can't ultimate because I have a Ragnarok available, and that is the one biggest downside in this matchup here for Hybrids.
Yeah, Ragnarok also goes back up. Flash not quite available. Savage, he's not going to take the chain. Oh,
no, he gets in on Doxa. That's not going to be enough damage, though. The sustainability is still there. Doxa doesn't have the ultimate in his hands.
Yeah, couldn't... Savage was maybe like a couple units away from being able to maybe lock him under the tower if he had gotten it against the wall, but was pretty far away from that, as it ends up being basically no summoners traded between the two of them. The flashes were not expended during that, so just a little poking back and forth. As pretty much everywhere, it's actually feeling okay. EGP found the one really big advantage on the top lane is Moonlight Vigil went out on the bottom side just to drop some damage into Mia and Dawnbreak. Back in the mid lane.
There it is. Out comes the Emperor's Divine on the other side. DK Savage, there's where the flashes come through. He doesn't have his own, but he's still going to be able to get out.
Yep, both sides burning flashes right there as well. Means eventually that Savage is going to get driven out of lane. TP is available for Savage, though. He could just use it to burn back to mid lane. And then they're on even summoner count. They're on even basically everything. Although I think it makes more sense for Shorter Ace to catch this one, because then they get TP advantage in just a couple minutes where that could be used offensively for some regard.
Nope. Not going to be the case. Hybrids maybe has enough damage here to take down Faisal. Will it be enough life? Still, Faisal has his kid. Yes, it is. Last second E means that he's going to get the extra damage to pick up the kill there. Poor Hybrids falling again. In the meantime, on the bottom side, Mia is going to be locked down. It's Clyde once again that picks up that kill. Evan RL says, I'm done. I'm out. I'm not going to fight these guys anymore. Yukino is here to try to save the day. Will it be enough? The re-engage followed by the ultimate from Dawnbreak. Yukino is going to be able to take down Savage. The Emperor's Divide does come out immediately after. Doxa here in the wings. Clyde gets rooted down by Dawnbreak. It's not going to be enough damage from the autos here from Dawnbreak. Actually, will it? There's the Q. There's the auto. He's going to be able to pick up that kill. In the meantime, Shorter Ace is going to be locked down, and Doxa picks up another one for EG Prodigy.
And a fight attempt on the bottom lane ended up leading to a lot worse. Yukino actually wants it. Oh. Okay.
So
I'm waiting. Q. He just needs Q.
Oh, he just needs Q. No! There's so much survivability within Yukino and Evan RL. Evan RL even through the heal is not gonna manage to stay alive. Yukino taking yet another one.
That fight just like swapped advantage like 4 times in a row in the course of a single second. This is the fight attempt because they dropped Rift Herald. It was a nice tag because Mia's still down Flash from earlier on in the game. And ultimately, this looked like a losing play coming through from EGP, especially with Savage coming in. But the ultimate from Yukino was gorgeous, being able to turn invisible, preventing Savage from really accomplishing what they would like to with the Azir soldiers. And because of that, there's 3 members now with low health, multiple members that are still here from EGP, and the cavalry's about to arrive with Doxa coming in from the left side of your screen here. That's going to be the complete death sentence. Dombre would have cleaned that one up. That would have been enough of an advantage. They were still winning this even with just the 1 kill for the multiple tower plates. But after all of this, and this is my favorite part of this play. Okay, so he hits W, changes, then Evan presses heal and has healing from Red Gun. Then it was the use of the item from Yukino, and then the trade-off once again. I don't know how Yukino was that not panicked about not getting the kill, just trusted 100% that the bleed was going to be enough and walked out in front of minions, was maybe half of an auto attack away from dying right there. Yukino walking away from the explosion like a chat.
It's true, because had that kill not gone through, he absolutely would have gone down to those minions. There was enough damage there that had been placed down by Evan RL, but that's the confidence that you need to come through from a player like this, and we can see how that is applying across the field on that total gold. Yukino and Faisal, no big surprise. The 2 members who have by far the most kills on the team for EGP are sitting at the top of the boards, and now that the game continues, we're starting to see that gold actually really begin to sway. It's still under 3,000 between the 2 teams, but we're taking a look at Faisal and Hybrids. This is a 2-level difference. You have the full Trinity Force, the full boots already purchased here for Faisal, and you still have just that first item that is being worked on right here by Hybrids, to the point where he's actually had to get some heal cut.
Goodness gracious. I think he bought the heal cut first item too, so like I don't know if he's trying to rush Chainsword maybe at this point just to try to get an item completed, but this is a very dire situation. Once again, the Olaf basically feels unkillable inside of this game, like who's actually going to do the damage necessary to kill him, especially from like melee range, so Gnar is not going to be in effect, Shorter Ace is not going to accomplish all that much. You're hoping that Evan's going to have the gold, but at this point in the game, the Talon is also immensely fed, Silas is feeling fine, has been farming incredibly well, and the 2 members you've been able to short are like Karthus, who's going to scale to infinity, and then you've got Senna, who's getting stacks and actually feels great, has like almost 1.5 completed items inside of this game. It's a terrible situation to find yourself in as DK crew, because again, the 1 member you need to be really fed is Evan, and Evan, he got first tower blood, but that's about all he's been able to accomplish inside of the game.
Even those couple of kills that he was there for, he got the assists on him. You see 0-2 and 2, but he didn't get the kills. We're going to take a nice little trip through the Hextech channel. Hybrids is on the backside, but Shorter Ace is the target. Yukino just trying to end this drag. He's going to be able to use the ultimate, be able to take that one out. He gets the kill. He barely stays alive. Evan on the backside is going to go down to Doxa. Mia is able to flash at the perfect time as Hybrids tries to re-engage on him and then escape into the enemy jungle. Recall here, the ultimate as well coming out from Mia. But before that even happens, it's an ace through Yukino.
They talked about superior fighting on our desk, and this is a big reason. Like, you can see from multiple angles, multiple members attacking, knowing what cooldowns that they've got readily available. It's going to be the denial of the dragon stacking from DK, which feels like their last chance effort at winning a game like this. Take a look at 2 things. First off, Doxa using this portal to get as far back with the 0 ultimate as possible. I don't know if they knew that that was going to be the case. And Mia and Faisal just can kind of walk at people, right? Shorter Ace tries to go into the dragon and steal that one up, and that splits apart this team crazy. It was almost Savage finding 1 kill in the midst of everything that would have been really, really valuable. But outside of that, there was basically no point here where it felt like DK was anything but just completely scatterbrained. Faisal, even to the last second, leaving the kill in the pit over so that Mia could pick it up on the Karthus rather than grabbing it on this Olaf, because he's already powerful. This team worked so well around that team fight. They knew when to attack because DK was desperate to find a win condition. And now it feels like they've already won this game, or at least they've got complete control of it.
Yeah, and that's where, you know, EGP just kind of stands above DK Crew in terms of the later game stages in general. When it comes to team fights, they're just a little bit cleaner. They're a little bit more organized on their initiations, on their engagements, and that was a perfect example of this. And not only that, we were talking about the top part of this map, right, being where we're going to have eyes for EGP, 402, 403, 2-0-1 for Faisal, you know, and Doxa respectively. I mean, those are just insane numbers. And now Doxa maybe finding an opportunity here on to Savage. You do have Clyde in the wings. It's a lot of damage. It's a nice Emperor's Divide. Doxa forced away. The W with the mantra will be enough. He barely stays alive, though, while supplying a lot of damage. Can he take the 1-for-1? At least it's a flash away from Clyde. Looks like he will end up going down to Shorter Ace, but it took 3, almost 4 members of DK Crew to finally end his reign. Oh, in the meantime, maybe Yukino looking for something, taking a little bit too much damage right off the bat in that fight, though.
Yeah, control of mid lane went to EGP while that whole thing was happening. They're going to get mid inner tower off the back of it. Because like you said, there was so much that had to be expended from DK Crew just to make sure that that wasn't just a kill going over to Dox. They could have found Savage, almost found Clyde in the midst of 3-4 members right there. Really impressive stuff from him. And again, the important part of that wasn't necessarily that he even got the kill. It was how long it took them to really lock him down and bring him down, because it opened up the mid lane for the team, where now they've got mid inner tower. They've got so much space for the Talon to work with, so much space for this team to kind of generate skirmishes in right now. That's going to be difficult for DK Crew to do anything about, because once again, that's not really what their kind of bread and butter is as a team, and it's definitely not what their composition is trying to accomplish inside a game like this. So again, it feels like Avenue's slowly getting close for DK.
And now it's getting scarier too in terms of having Yukino on board, because we take a look at that vision and all of it has shifted for DK Crew back to their own defensive side. It's on their own jungle, whereas with EGP, they're looking aggressive. They're looking at locking down these objectives. Looking at current experiences, the levels for Faisal, almost 14. This is how far ahead this Olaf is right now.
Like I said, this happened last time, and I said it while we were getting ready for game. It's just like, did DK Crew learn their lesson from last time? And apparently Faisal has to keep teaching them this lesson, that you shouldn't be giving him the Olaf, especially if you're going to prioritize Gnar this early. I know it's a powerful champion, but this has been the response from Faisal for so long. He's so good at the champion, playing it even before it was good, and it's good right now, and it's definitely good into the matchup. Favorable for Faisal, as he almost found 2 solo kills in the laning phase. I mean, performing exactly as they needed to. We talked about them playing the top side, but goodness gracious, they didn't even need to play the top side for Faisal to just kind of run away with things.
Exactly, and that's where I was kind of talking about, you know, the selections in the composition for EG Prodigies, right? The last lock-in was this Olaf, because they already knew what they were establishing for the rest of the map, so they're like, all right, cool. We'll just give Faisal a nice matchup. We'll give him the opportunity to continuously scale throughout the game and be this frontliner that we really need him to. And we'll see if if Yukino is able to get out of this one. He doesn't need to, actually. We've got the teleport now coming through. Faisal is on the way. This top tower needs to get taken down for them to move on to the next, of course, that passive from Savage. And now it's 4 members versus 3 members, with the last in Dombre collapsing forward. Evan RL is there, but Hybrid's not available. He does have his teleport up, though.
Just giving them a place under which they can cower right now, because there's just so little that they can do when it comes to fighting, as Faisal's wrapped around. I mean, he's preventing anyone from kind of walking up. Clyde definitely isn't strong enough. It looks like they bail on this play because they realize, hey, you know, first off, Savage is here. We already knew damage was down, and Clyde was here on the defense. There's 3 people on top side, and they're defending what, in a Azir turret? They're defending some kills? Great. We're just going to shift into bottom side. We're going to grab all of the pressure around this Drake as possible. We're going to grab the second one of the game. It's just going to be that simple. I don't think they need the soul, really, to make sure that they can win a game like this. I feel like the game's going to be over long before the soul comes through. But honestly, if they wanted to stack and wait that long, they absolutely could. They've got the team composition to scale here as well. They'd give more time to Savage and MRL, but again, I don't anticipate that being the case. Instead, they're just taking away every possibility of DK Crew to win a game like this. The soul point's one thing that could give them a small beacon of hope, and just being denied by the side of EG.
Yeah, but we've also seen how Yukino is just able to navigate this map. He'll run into 3 members, and that enough is scary for DK Crew. They're like, we don't know where enough members of the rest of EGP are. We are not able to stay in this fight. And then something like this happens where Clyde gets pinched between absolutely everybody, just trying to throw down some vision. Yeah, you got it down, Clyde, but you fed another one over to Dawnbray, and now this vision will just be completely removed thanks to the sweepers.
Yeah, that was 3 wards that got brought down by just the one Umbral Glaive coming through from Dawnbray. A shorter range now. Probably going to go down to Faisal, if not Yukino and Faisal combination.
Yes,
that should be Baron, almost certainly.
That should certainly be Baron. Dawnbray might get jumped on here, but there's not going to be enough that can be done. It's a lot of damage coming out of Edward RL.
Oh.
Actually, so much damage that Mia and Yukino want to make the play onto him. The ultimate now coming out of Mia. Yukino's going to be able to pick up the kill before anything happens there. Barely able to stay alive with the smite onto the wolves, but it won't be enough. It's a big shutdown coming from Hybrids.
Yeah, so that was Yukino, I think, getting really aggressive, knowing that they're insanely strong in this game. Picking off Evan RL is massive because, again, there's no fight to come through. And let's be real here. If Yukino gets out and is able to escape, especially with like half health or something, they easily could have turned to Baron, because now you have no ADC, you have no jungler. There's no way for you to fight back outside of just like a random complete flip from a single ability or something like that. Instead, Yukino goes down. Nobody was able to respond top because there were multiple members in mid lane. One was already down at the time. 2 were down after FNRL went down. So there's just no defense to top turret either. So that means that, again, more gold for Faisal. They're slowly picking off little pieces of the pie here. What's going on?
Clyde just walked through that jungle with the sweeper. Right now, we can't see because the vision break is on, but he walked around like four wards and managed to find the one vision ward that was placed down in that bush. So EG Prodigies, they still have really solid vision here up towards the top side. If they do decide to make a play onto this Baron, the opportunity is there, especially with the amount of time that Clyde is investing in just trying to get some vision around this objective.
He's trying to make sure that Shorter Ace and Savage and Evan can access it to some extent, but it just doesn't matter because EG, they've got firm control of the top side. They've got top lane is literally pushing to the inhibitor tower right now. Mid lane is pushing in pretty far up the lane, and now they're going to kick out all the vision with Dawnbray. He's got the Umbral Blade, so they're not worried about it. DK Crew are literally walking completely blind into a team that is significantly stronger, and the Baron's going to be gone as well. Like, Shorter Ace probably can't even get to the pit in time.
See, he might have the opportunity to actually, nope, down goes the Baron, and oh my gosh, down goes Shorter Ace immediately after. That Crescent not going to be nearly enough damage, and my gosh, what are you talking about damage? Yukino does so much Faisal, able to get a double kill with that hatchet. Out comes Mia's ultimate on top of it, just to throw some extra damage down. Evan RL, the next to fall, Faisal with the triple kill. Can he make it a quadra? Hybrid should be able to navigate away from this one. The exhaust was expended to try to keep him in the fight, but that means that everything is open and clean for EGP. They only lost Yukino with that Baron buff.
All right, game 4 Olaf ban, please. Faisal cannot be allowed to have this anymore. This was the play originally coming. I think Shorter Ace wanted to jump in on the Baron, and like he just wasn't able to because Faisal was in his base. He would almost certainly killed him. This from Yukino was gorgeous. He put a bunch of damage in. Unfortunately, got stunned up, and so the second part of the ultimate didn't activate the way he wanted it to. But Faisal was just a beast in this fight, able to run forward, putting out all this damage. They didn't even need this to go well. They had the Baron buff. After the first couple kills, they could have walked away. They just took everything because what's to stop them from taking everything, right? They're too powerful across the board with this Baron buff as well in hand. Should be enough to deal at least enough of a lethal blow that DK Crew should start considering what happens in game number 2.
This is a rough one when you look at that fight and the damage dealt, and you see Shorter Ace, having been that first one to get jumped on, instantly melted. In the meantime, he's just trying to go and navigate his way into his own jungle. He's got to know that's not something that he's capable of doing when you got chasers like they have on Evil Genius's Prodigies. Less than a minute now until the next dragons to EGP. Probably going to focus on that, but again, I'm not sure if they're going to have time to have a 4th dragon spawn after this with how much pressure they've won with these fights.
I don't even think they should be going for the dragon. I think they 100% should just be sticking to mid and bottom lane right now and just pushing these lanes relentlessly to put damage into the towers. You can see bottom lane inhibitor is already going to be aggressed against. I think mid lane tower as well. If you can grab mid inhibitor as well and dragon on the way out, like that is the death blow that's necessary. That's the point where DK Crew would have to hope for miracle upon miracle to get out of this game unscathed. But unfortunately, I feel like we're a little too late for that.
That's what EGP stands for, right? End game, please.
End game, please.
End game, please. And that's kind of where they're at right here. Hybrid's doing everything he can to try to get some pressure here. We've got the question mark pings coming out from EGP. It's a beautiful ultimate from Dox, and it gets Savage out. Can he use the Emperor's Divide successfully on his own? Unfortunately not. The teleport's going to come through from Hybrids. He's in mega form, but he's not going to be able to even get an ulti out before he goes back to Little Gnar, and that means that EG Prodigy is going to be able to find their second inhibitor of the game, get super minions traveling down more areas with still 30 minutes or 30 seconds, left on their Baron buff.
Yeah, I think they're going to push this one last wave, maybe look to close the game. Yeah, Faisal's in aggressive. They're killing everybody.
There it is. They've got the capacity to do so. Mia is going to go down here totally okay with that. Probably has the ultimate up and available. There it is. Going to activate that one right away. Be in a nice position to try to ward off as much damage as possible. And once again, EGP end game, please. At least game number 1 so we can go into number 2. But in the meantime, they're going to pad their stats. Faisal's going to find one. Give him a second one. You know what? Why not?
You can really appreciate everything that came through right there, because once again, it's EGP just dominating their opposition. They came in as one of our projected top teams, right? Them hitting outside of top 6, I think would be astonishing to most people after their performance in the first qualifier and in this qualifier already. And they're doing everything that they can, right? They're not losing to teams that they don't need to. They lost to Maryville last week. They had a rough loss because that one game was theirs to take, and unfortunately they got kind of tripped and they fell right before the ending point. And so in this series, they're just putting their foot down. They're saying, no, there is no DK Crew to us. There is only top 8. There is only the future. There's only playoffs for us to be able to play for. And again, winning this puts them in a much better position to try to compete for that top 6 spot. And that's what would really, I think, define to this team something good. Because they brought in a bunch of developmental pieces, and placing that high would be for them.
Yeah, definitely a good thing. And, this is where we'll find out, too, if they're able to sweep it out in a 2-0. I really think that composition, right, the draft that we saw was incredibly confident coming out of EGP. It was a lot more rocky coming from DK Crew, right? They were trying to sort of navigate around the lock-ins that EGP made, but the whole reason that EGP made those lock-ins was so you could not navigate around them until they were actually locked into their final positions. It worked out really well, but you know what? Let's ask the experts. We're going to see what the desk has to say about game number 1.